Good morning. Welcome to Communication Arts 3 and English American Literatures. You are with teacher Claren and we are now in week 2. I decided to have this discussion recorded for those who could not attend my synchronous meeting due to unstable or poor internet connection. I hope that you will watch this video until the end, especially how to answer the graded assessment LG 1.3, which is your alternative assessment. In the previous quarter, you learned about how to write a concept paper. For this module, you will focus on the features, elements, and principles of writing a position paper. The topics were divided into three. We have here LG 1.1, features of a position paper, LG 1.2, principles in writing a position paper, and LG 1.3, writing a position paper. So I will discuss first LG 1.1, features of a position paper. Class, let us begin with the end in mind. Let me first read our objectives. By the end of this guide, the students will have been able to first define what a position paper is and identify the purposes and features of a position paper. Class, we are done discussing about a concept paper, which is also one of the forms of academic writing. Remember, class, that when we talk about academic writing, it is formal, which means that we use academic words and avoid using figurative language such as idiomatic expression and slang words. Remember, class, that it must be clear, concise, and focused, as well as structured. You don't need to beat around the bush. You have to be direct, make it brief, but precise in terms of diction or choice of words. Now, going back to the definition and meaning of a position paper, okay, do you have any idea what a position paper is all about? You can pause this video and then think about what a position paper is. And then afterwards, I will reveal to you the answer. Okay, you got it right. What is a position paper? A position paper is a form of academic writing, typically written after one has read about and had a discussion on a particular issue. Like in a debate class, it presents one side of an arguable opinion about an issue. Okay, when we want to express our stand, claim, or side on a particular issue, whether it's about religion or politics, we want them, our readers, our listeners, to understand our point of view. And in order to do so, writing a position paper can help us organize our thoughts, gather our thoughts, and argument in a manner that is easily to understand. Listed here are some issues that you might consider as your topic in writing your position paper. I will read each one of these topics, and then what you're going to do is to click that pause button on your screen and try to answer whether you agree or disagree, and then explain it briefly. Okay, so you're going to express your agreement and disagreement. Our first topic is, it is okay to not be okay. Do you agree with this or disagree? Online class is a life changer, a game changer for the students and teachers. Letter C, global warming is a bigger problem than COVID-19. The fundamental purpose of government is to protect its citizens. Being a precise scholar has a lot of advantages. Are you done? Okay, so your answer on every issue might tell about your beliefs and your stand. Thank you for answering. Moving on to our next slide. What is the purpose of writing a position paper? Now, class, you may find yourself asking, why do I need to write a position paper? Why do I need to listen to Ma'am Claret? And what can I get from learning how to write a position paper? Can I use this when I get into college? In other words, what is the purpose of writing a position paper? Okay, again, pause this video and give me a brief answer. I will reveal the answer later after you're done. Okay, you got it right. So the main purpose of writing a position paper is, yes, it's to convince the audience that the author's opinion is valid and defensible. Um, and to persuade them. Of course, you have to gather pieces of evidence no, and data through extensive research from reliable sources to convince your readers, especially to controversial issues like politics and religion. Okay, to discuss this further, here are some purposes of writing a position paper. Okay, our first one is it generates support for a side or position. You can't make your position paper valid and defensible without having them backed up with evidence. That is why writing a position paper takes time, as you need to thoroughly research and look at or consider all sides, different sides of the issues. You don't want to be biased. You want your paper to be objective as much as possible. Next is it addresses particular issues and events that spark debate and discussion. There were controversial topics that need to be addressed, such as the use of vaccines, whether it is safe or not to use, and the issue recently about the Pinoy Brother, where some contestants failed to answer basic Philippine history. It really caught the attention of viewers. Anyways, those topics like that. If you want to make a stand on these aforementioned issues, you may write a position paper on this. And next is it adds voice and support to the chosen side, which may generate even more support from others. So there might be some sides or angles on a certain issue that were missed or overlooked by others. So this is one way to present it in an organized manner, which might add voice and support to your selected issue. And lastly, it provides a research-based solution to a particular issue. We know that nowadays we are bombarded with misinformation on social media. We don't know uh, what is a fact. We don't know which one is a fact or which one is true, which one is not true. And that is why some reliable news page on social media has a fact checker. Okay? So when addressing a particular issue, we don't want to jump right to the issue right away or jump into a conclusion without addressing or considering all sides or different sides of the issue. And this is where one of the purposes of a position paper comes into play, and that is it is a research based. It is a research based solution, and your side or claim is supported and backed up by evidence and examples. Okay? So here are some examples of issues or uh, purposes of writing a position paper. You can write a position paper when you want to have a campaign, support a politician, your preferred politician, by writing a position paper to your supporting paper, uh, position paper supporting your candidate. Number two, you can also present position in support of a particular solution in neighborhood, such as cleanliness. Okay, so number three, choosing a product to support in the market. through a position paper. You can also write a position paper about that. And presenting a country's stance on the issue topic, like in United Nations conference. So there were topics, no, or issues that can be discussed using a position paper. So that's the purposes of writing a position paper. That's very useful, no, and beneficial in expressing your thoughts with or supported by evidence. Now let us talk about the parts of a position paper. Just like writing an essay, it also includes the basic parts, which are I know you know you're already now aware of this. We have introduction, body, and conclusion. Okay, so let us first talk about the introduction. So the introduction has a dual purpose to introduce the topic and your approach to it. So writers might have the same topic but different approach. One might be better than the other. But what is important here is that you set your perspective until your readers gets get a grasp of your side, your claim, your point of view. And this is where your thesis statement comes, in which the main idea of your entire paper. Now, introduction class is very important because this will tell your reader if he or she will still continue reading or not, reading your paper. Now, is it worth reading for? You really have to start with a bang and catch your reader's interest. So it depends on you as a writer. Okay? Uh, Secondly, we also have our body after the introduction. Okay? So the body contains arguments that support your chosen topic or issue. It must at least contain three main points. Okay, three main points that defend your position on the issue, and you can discuss this in separate paragraphs. Okay, so you don't want to be biased. That is why it's important to include counter arguments. What is a counter argument? This is against to the initial argument you have introduced. Okay, so you don't want to be biased. That is why you have also to consider the opinions of those who are against or for, let's say, to that issue. Now, when you are summarizing opposing arguments, present each argument fairly and objectively. You can have two serious counter arguments on this issue with support, but make sure, class, that you're firm with your stand. For example, if you agree with a certain issue in the first paragraph, you cannot just close or wrap it up with disagreement because you agree, and then in the conclusion, it seems like you disagree. Though you can have your counter argument, you will go back to your stand. Okay, you will go back to your claim and support it with even stronger, evidence. And that is why it's very important to be firm, because you don't want to confuse your readers. You don't want to create confusion. You have to be firm whether you agree or disagree. And you cannot have both. No, you choose only one. You agree? Do you agree or disagree? Class, I also did mention in the introduction that you have to catch the interest of your readers. In the body of your essay, the challenge is to sustain this interest and make them continue reading until the conclusion, until the end of your paper. Now, speaking about conclusion, in writing a conclusion, you just need to briefly discuss your thesis statement. Don't forget your thesis statement. No? You don't want to discuss other issues. Okay, you focus on your thesis statement. And be careful, class, not to introduce new information and new argument that will spark another debate, because the purpose of a conclusion is to wrap it all up. Close the issue, of course, with a strong conclusion and a plan of action. Okay, let us now proceed to LG 1.2, Principles in Writing a Position Paper. Now, we're done with the features of a position paper, or the parts. Let us now proceed to principles. Okay, so our target, by the end of this guide, the students will have been able to identify the principles in writing a position paper and define each section of a position paper. Okay, so what are the different issues in your school, community, and country? If there is, okay, you name 5 issues, please click that pause button on your screen and try to answer these. Okay, you think about 5 issues in your school. It might be in your school, in your community, or in general in your country. Are you done with this? Okay, so I hope that you're done. We can proceed with the next. So in writing a position paper, it is crucial to consider the following to be able to present a strong argument. So our first one is, you have to ask yourself before writing a position paper, is it a real issue with genuine controversy and uncertainty? Which means that, does it need to be addressed? Does it create uncertainty to people in the community and really need to be addressed? Okay, you consider the arguability of the issue. And then, can you identify at least 2 distinctive positions? Another question. Now, you ask yourself, are there 2 opposing positions that exist? Okay, 2 distinctive positions. You have to choose between these 2 distinctive positions. Say, for example, in using vaccines, is it safe or not safe? Okay. Okay, so under issue criteria, another question is, are you personally interested in advocating for one of these positions? If not, then what's the purpose of writing a position paper? Okay, so you really have to choose now and be interested in advocating one of these positions. You shall take one side of the issue. If you agree, that means you disagree, or the other way around. You cannot have both. Okay. Next is the scope of the issue narrow enough to be manageable? So is the issue narrow enough, which means that the issue might have, for example, negative effects on the community and need to be talked about. These need to be discussed. No, it's not something it's not something about the usual topics or everyday topics that people talk about. Okay, so it's something that really sparks debate. Okay, so you have to consider that. You can also use this as reference once your topics have been selected to have a well-supported paper listing the pros and cons, say for example, advantages or disadvantages. Sides of the topic will help you examine your ability to support your counterclaims. So analyzing an issue and developing an argument. So for the type of information here, for the introductory information and overviews, what type of source you should look for. That is directories, encyclopedias, and handbooks. In-depth studies, books, government reports, scholarly articles, that is, you look for academic journals, current issues or news, newspapers, magazines, of course, and statistics, you look for government agencies and associations, those that end with, for example, gov.ph, no, site. Lastly, position papers and analysis, association and institute reports. Okay, so this would be very beneficial, no, for you before writing your position paper. You know which type of source to look for. Okay, so let's proceed to organization. Organization is very crucial in writing a position paper. That is why you write a position paper in order for the readers to understand, easily understand your thoughts, flow of thoughts. Okay, so to present your paper in a manner that is well organized, you can use this as your guide. And this can be found in LG 1.2. Okay, you can introduce your topic in an interesting way, such as using a rhetorical question or the introduction. Okay, so introduce the topic. And letter B, provide background on the topic to explain why it is important. Okay, so you discuss briefly why it is important, and this is followed by assertion of your thesis, okay, your view of the issue. This is where you will introduce your claim, your side. Okay, do you agree, do you disagree with this, so on and so forth. And afterwards you introduce your counter argument. Once you presented your argument, you consider the what others have to say to your side. Say, for example, you agree with a certain issue. So those who disagree with that issue will you will need to consider those by uh, including a counter argument in your paper. So you summarize the counterclaims and provide support information for counterclaims. No, though you this is not your side, this is not your claim, this is not your side, you really need to look at different sides, all angles, as what I've said. Research for that. Okay, so to make it objective and fair. And you also have to consider, class, you have to think carefully on how you will respond to this. At some point, you may consider that your opponent has a point. So you have to explain why your audience should consider your argument than those who are opposed to you. Now, by presenting even stronger argument, well, that is why you have written your position paper. You have to convince them of your claim. And that is where give evidence comes in. So for number 3, your argument, you go back to your argument. Okay. So you already have your argument, no? And then you have your counter argument, and you go back to your argument with even stronger evidence. And number 1, you assert point 1. So I mentioned a while ago that you have to present at least 3 points, no, um, of your topic or on about the issue or on the issue. So assert point number 1 of your claims, no? And then give your educated or informed opinion. Okay, so you support your assertion with informed opinion. What does it mean by informed opinion? It's your opinion, class, but then it can be an informed opinion if it is supported with evidence, no, with research from reliable sources. Okay, and then provide support or proof using more than one source, preferably 3. Okay, 3 sources. Okay, do not just rely on one source. You have to gather, you have to research at least, no, at least from 3 reliable or reputable sources. So for your assertion number 2, it's the same, no? Give your educated and informed opinion, and then provide support or proof using more than one source. Okay, you can have this to another. You can write this in another paragraph or a separate paragraph. Next is assertion point 3. Okay, so it's the same with the same format. Okay, or details that you'll need to include. You have to give your educated and informed opinion to your assertion number 3, and then provide support or proof using more than one source. And then your conclusion. Okay, so in your conclusion, again, you need to restate your argument, preferably your thesis statement. Okay, and then you provide a plan of action, but do not introduce new information. Okay, do not introduce a new topic, that will spark debate. Okay, that will spark, um, it will leave questions to your readers. Why is this topic introduced? Why is this issue included in the conclusion, where in fact you have to sum it up, you have to wrap it up and close the issue. Now let us proceed to LG 1.3, writing a position paper. So this is your graded assessment, your alternative assessment. You have to write a position paper following a certain format. So here's our target. By the end of this guide, you will be able to take a stand on an issue and defend it by presenting reasonable arguments supported by properly cited factual evidence. Apply the features of a position paper and apply the elements in writing a position paper. So in this column from the issues you have written down in task 2, I think that's in LG 1.2, right? In the previous learning guide, what is now your own position stand claim on each of them? Okay, you need to answer these before you proceed to writing a position paper. So in the first column, you will write the issues, a list of issues, first column. So example, social media. So that is your or the issue that you have chosen. And then in the second column, my claim, stand or position. Okay, what is your stand? Social media creates a valuable learning environment that encourages writing, reading, critical thinking, and research for students and teachers. So that is your claim, that is your stand, that social media uh, is beneficial, it's useful, that it's useful to students and teachers. Okay, so in our next slide, we have to consider all of these points in writing a position paper. First is you have to clearly identify the issue that you believe is affecting you and your community. So I think we did this already earlier. No, you identify in the bubble map, you listed 5 issues um, in your community, no, in school, or in our country. And next, after that, from the issues you have identified, take a side that you can defend. Okay? And identify other concepts or ideas that can be associated with them. Okay, you identify other concepts, um, what concepts related to them, that can be associated with them, and then formulate statements that will express your stand towards the issues. I think this is where your thesis statement comes in, no? Your thesis statement is the main idea of your entire paragraph. Okay, so by reading your thesis statement, the readers, no, or readers will be able to know your stand on that issue, on a particular issue. Okay, so next is gather factual evidences to support your arguments regarding the issue. Okay, and make sure that your statements are strong enough to convince or persuade your readers into action to address the issue. And that is one of the purposes of writing a position paper, no? To convince your readers into action, no? To address the issue. Okay, if you fail to do so, that means you're lacking perhaps in data or information, or your evidence, no, is not enough to support your claim, to support your stand. That is why you really have to have extensive research, no, in order to make it more, no, make it factual, make it um, believable to readers. Okay. So this is your alternative assessment class. This is your graded assessment. That is LG 1.3. No? Please take a look at task 2, navigate, know your stand. So choose an issue in task 1. No, I told you to answer first. No, task 1. I think there are two columns, and write an essay stating your position on the issue. Use the attached activity sheet. Okay, so you have listed, I think, more than one topics on that. So you choose only one issue. No? After that, no, you write a position paper on that issue. The activity sheet can be found in LG 1.3. So this is your activity sheet, class. Okay, so know your stand, choose an issue in task 1, and write an essay stating your position on the said issue. Okay, your name, section, and then your title. Okay, and this is where your um, where you will write your introduction, your body, and conclusion. You can also follow the format that I discussed earlier. You present your introduction, your counter argument, your argument, and then your conclusion. You can follow exactly that. You can use it as a reference, as your guide in writing a position paper. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can just send me a PM or email or give me a call so that I can answer your questions. Thank you for listening, and I hope that we can have no, I hope that you can comply all the requirements in our subject. Goodbye, everyone. Bye for now.